Okay, good morning everyone. So, in this video, we will be discussing the model for axiomatic system. So, giving each undefined term within the system with a specific meaning is called an interpretation of the system. So, kapag nagbigay tayo, nag-assign tayo ng meaning sa isang undefined term, you consider that one as interpretation of the system. Okay, so in geometry, points, lines, and planes are undefined terms. So let's consider points. To make sense of this undefined term, you need to give meaning to it. Say points will be represented as letter A. So gagamit tayo ng letter to represent a point. This means that point may be represented or interpreted as letter A. So in an exceedingly formal definition of point in geometry, it describes as a location with no size, no width, no length, and no depth or no height. A point can be illustrated as a dot. So gaya nitong laser pointer na ginagamit ko, it could represent a dot or a point because it's a dot. So sabi dyan, a point has no dimension, meaning it has no size, no width, and no length, no depth. But it indicates a location. An interpretation that produces an axiom true is said to satisfy an axiom. If there exists an interpretation within which every axiom in a system becomes true, then the system is said to be satisfiable. If a system is satisfiable, then such an interpretation is called a model. So in other words, if for a given interpretation of a system, all of the axioms are correct statements, then the interpretation is a model. So how's that? So when we interpret undefined terms at nagawa nitong maging tama yung axiom, we can say that the interpretation is effective since it satisfies the axiom. Now, kung yung interpretation na ginawa natin makes all of the axioms in the system true, masasabi natin na yung system is satisfiable. If that's the case, na yung system ay satisfiable, then yung interpretation na ginawa natin ay matatawag nating model. Okay, dito tayo sa definition. A model of an axiomatic system is obtained by assigning meaning to the undefined terms of the axiomatic system. To form, the axioms become true statements about the assigned concepts. So, first na dapat nating gawin when dealing with model is to assign meaning to the undefined terms. When we say assign meaning, that means we're going to represent those undefined terms. Isip tayo ng mga bagay na makakapag-represent sa mga undefined terms. So, bakit tayo mag-assign ng meaning? Para magawa nating true o tama yung mga axioms na nasa system. Okay, so we have two forms of models. The first one, concrete models have interpretations of the undefined terms adapted from the real world. So, from the word concrete alone, you already know na ang ginagamit natin dyan to interpret undefined terms ay mga bagay na present sa real world. Ibig sabihin, concrete in the sense that it's existing in a material or physical form. On the other hand, abstract models have interpretations of the undefined terms taken from some other axiomatic system such as the real number system. Okay, so kapag abstract, that means it's existing in thought or as an idea but not having physical or concrete existence. Okay, so let's consider example 1. Show that the set of axioms has a model. Okay, so let's consider the following axiom sets for committee. Axiom 1 states that each committee is a set of 3 members. Yung isang komite, meron siyang 3 miyembro. Axiom 2 says each member is on exactly 2 committees. Yung isang miyembro nasa eksaktong 2 committee. Axiom 3, no 2 members may be together on more than 1 committee. Yung 2 miyembro hindi dapat magkasama sa higit sa isang committee. Axiom 4, there is at least 1 committee. So, ibig sabihin, kapag sinabi natin at least, pwedeng isa or pwedeng mas marami at least. Okay, so ang solution natin dyan, first, you need to interpret the undefined terms. So from the given set of axiom sets for committee, the undefined terms are members and committee. So to interpret the undefined term member, you need to give meaning to it. Let's say members will be interpreted as names of individuals like Alan, Beth, Chris, Dave, Elena, and Fred. So yun yung sinasabi natin kanina na ini-interpret natin yung mga undefined terms by assigning meaning to it. So hindi natin alam yung member, that's an undefined term. So para ma-interpret natin siya, gagamit tayo ng real names of persons. Okay, while for undefined term committee, it will be interpreted as a group of individuals such as Alan, Beth, Chris, Alan, Dave, Elena, Beth, Dave, Fred, Chris, Elena, Fred. Note that this set of axioms can be illustrated in many ways. So the table on the next slide is the results of the interpretation of the given set of axioms. Okay, so this is the model of axiom 1 and axiom 4. So we have here the primitive terms na sinasabi natin kanina. Ito yung members natin. This will be our committees. So to interpret the primitive terms members, gumamit tayo ng mga totoong pangalan ng mga tao. So Alan, Beth, Chris, Dave, Elena, and Fred. Yung committee naman, group natin yung mga members. So this is Alan, Beth, Chris. So nilagyan ko dyan ng C1 to indicate that this is committee 1. Alan, Dave, Elena, C2 or committee 2. Beth, Dave, Fred, committee 3. Chris, Elena, Fred, committee 4. Committee 4. So second, na dapat natin gawin, you need to check whether each axiom in the given set of axioms are satisfied. So axiom 1 states that each committee is a set of 3 members. So to determine if this axiom is true, you must look at each committee together with the number of members. If the number of members for every committee is 3, then the axiom is satisfied. Okay, sabi ng axiom 1 natin, every committee has exactly 3 members. So dito sa C1 or committee 1, Alan, Beth, Chris. So meron tayong 3 members. Tama, satisfied. Committee 2, Alan, Dave, Elena. Okay, tama rin. It has 3 members. Committee 3, Beth, Dave, Fred. 3 members also. And lastly, Committee 4 with Chris, Elena, and Fred. So, if the number of members for every committee is 3, na tama naman, lahat ng committee has members of 3. Then, the axiom is satisfied. So, na-satisfy natin yung axiom 1. Axiom 2 states that each member is on exactly 2 committees. To check this axiom, you look at each member and list the number of committees they are on. If that number is 2 for every member, then the axiom is true. So, check natin kung tama or masasatisfy natin yung axiom number 2. Okay, so this is our model for axiom 2. So to check this axiom, you look at each member and list the number of committees they are on. If that number is 2 for every member, then the axiom is true. Sabi ng axiom 2 natin, dapat each member daw ay nasa exactly 2 committees. So check natin each member. So si Alan, member siya ng Committee 1 and Committee 2. So, ibig sabihin, Alan is exactly on 2 committees. So, tama. Si Beth naman, she is a member of Committee 1 and Committee 3. So, Beth is also a member of 2 committees. So, tama pa rin. Chris, a member of Committee 1, Committee 4. So, Chris is a member on exactly 2 committees. Tama. Dave is a member of Committee 2 and Committee 3. So therefore, Dave is a member of a committee of exactly two committees. So Elena is a member of Committee 2 and Committee 4. So therefore, Elena is a member of exactly two committees. And lastly, Fred is a member of Committee 3 and 4. So ibig sabihin yan, if that number is 2 for every member, then the axiom is true. So nasatisfy natin yung axiom number 2. Proceed tayo sa axiom number 3, which states that no two members may be together on more than one committee. Walang dalawang miyembro ang dapat magkasama sa higit na isang committee. Okay, so proceed tayo sa model for axiom 3. Okay, axiom 3. For this axiom, you have to look at all pairs of members and make sure that none of the pairs is on more than one committee. So, it is acceptable to have the pair of members to be on 0 committee or 1 committee, but not 2 or more. So, less than or equal to 1. Pwedeng wala, pwedeng hindi sila nagsama sa isang committee, pwedeng nagsama sila sa isang committee, pero hindi pwedeng nagsama sila sa higit isang committee. So, i-check natin itong mga pair of members natin. So, si Alan at si Beth, magkasama sila sa Committee 1. So, Alan, Beth, Chris. Okay, so again, ulitin natin. So, for action number 3, no two members may be together on more than one committee. Okay, so check natin, Alan and Beth. So, they are on the same committee, committee number 1. For Alan and Chris, also, they are together in Committee 1. Si Alan and Dave, magkasama sila sa Committee 2. So, isa lang. Alan and Elena, magkasama sila sa Committee 2. Si Alan and Fred, never silang nagkasama. So, accepted pa rin yun. So, it's not more than 1. Beth and Chris, magkasama sila for Committee 1. Beth and Dave, they are together in Committee 3. Beth and Elena, they never together in a committee. Beth and Fred, magkasama sa Committee 3. So, isa lang. Sa isang committee lang sila magkasama. Si Chris and Dave, never silang nagkasama sa isang committee. Si Chris and Elena, they are together in Committee 4. So, accepted. Yes. Chris and Fred, magkasama sila sa Committee 4. So, yes. Dave and Elena, magkasama sa Committee 2. Dave and Fred, Committee 3. Elena and Fred, magkasama sa Committee 4. So, lahat ng pairs of members are together in not more than one committee. So, ibig sabihin yan, nasatisfy natin yung axiom number 3. Dito naman tayo sa axiom number 4, states that there is at least one committee. So, since the number of committees is more than one in a given set of axioms, then the axiom is satisfied. So, ilang committee ba meron tayo? Committee 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, that's at least one committee. So, ibig sabihin niya na satisfy natin yung axiom number 4. So, since axioms 1, 2, 3, and 4 are satisfiable, therefore, the model for set of axioms for committee exists. Let's proceed with Lesson 2, Properties of Axiomatic Systems. So, sets of axioms